This is Unrendered. We're into our third section and we're moving right along. Our guest is Dr. Timothy Harris from St. Kitts Nevis. Dr. Harris, please explain to our viewers and to myself the breakup of Parliament, or the constitution of Parliament as it stands now. There's a 6-5 division. How did that come about? Explain yourself and Sam Condor moving to the other side.
Sam Condor and I became the founding leaders, if you will, of the People's Labour Party. For the reason you gave, we still saw ourselves and still continue to feel wedded to the philosophical underpinnings of the labour movement.
Did they push you out of the party, or did you leave?
Well, I was terminated as a minister. I continued to serve as a chairman of the party. I did not offer myself for re-election as would be required in May. And at the end of May or thereabout, we then formalized a political party called the People's Labour Party. Again, basically testifying to our commitment. Our falling out was with the leader, not the party, so to speak. So in the parliament as is now constituted, the Honourable Sam Condor and I are representing the People's Labour Party. There are two representatives, the Honourable Sean Richards and the Honourable Eugene Hamilton, representing the People's Action Movement, which had been the principal opposition party in St. Kitts, in contention with the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party hitherto. And then in Nevis, we have the Concerned Citizens Movement, which now has the local government in Nevis, run by the Honourable Van Samy, now Premier, and the Honourable Mark Brantley, Deputy Premier, and who is leader in the National Assembly. And so we constitute the six, because we have now basically, by and large, have enjoined in support for the motion of no confidence. And the consequence of that, it was necessary for us to establish a mechanism for collaboration, for working together in national good. Hence came the notion of team unity, working together for national good.
Of which you're the political head.
Of which I am the political leader. That was launched in September.
Of 2013.
2013. So we did not, as it were, dissolve the individual political parties, but rather brought them together in a coalition called Team Unity.
And that's quite legal to be...
Of course, that is quite...
Political leader of two parties.
Yeah, that is quite legal. There is no prohibition to that, really.
So you've got 5 members on the government side now.
Presented. There are a minority of members on the government side, 5 elected, 4, as it were, from the Labour Party, and 1 from the Nevis Reformation Party in Nevis. And we have 6 in the opposition, which represent an aberration, an irregularity in terms of the functioning of parliamentary democracy, in that you have an elected majority now in opposition, notwithstanding they have determined to work together.
And of course,
and you have a minority. The senators, we have a unicameral parliamentary system.
Count.
The senators can vote, save on the motion of no confidence. The Constitution prevents them. And this is where the arithmetic gets interesting. It means then of the 11, only 11 persons can vote on the motion of no confidence. 6 will vote against it, which means that the motion will succeed against the government and the government will collapse. That is part of the fear and the nightmare which the outgoing Prime Minister faces. And he is not yet ready to deal with that demise of the government. And so he has been using all kinds of subterfuge and other devices to delay the hearing of the motion of no confidence, while he attempts to, as it were, buy the goodwill and support of the electorate. Because ultimately, that is where it will reach to.
So, just to be clear, 6 will vote for the motion. 6
have already written to the Governor General indicating that position, to make it pellucidly clear.
Okay, let's get further into the meat of it, because this is now a very interesting battle royale, and you have Judge Darshan Ramdani, who has made his decision, passed judgment in February earlier this year, and it is very interesting, quoting a number of antecedents, in England, in Trinidad, in Dominica, I think, in Grenada as well. Can you highlight some of those in essence? What is the contention? Because I believe one of the grounds in support of the applications by the defendants, that is to say Dr. Denzel Douglas and the four other members of Parliament, is that the High Court is precluded from inquiring into the internal management, procedure, rules and proceedings of the National Assembly, inclusive of its powers and privileges. The Parliament, the defendants say, basically Dr. Denzel Douglas, Prime Minister, the Parliament is master of its own management, rules, procedures and affairs.
Yeah.
And the court has said...
The court says no, that is not so. The court said basically this ancient notion of supremacy of Parliament basically has its own limits. And that in fact we are not a monarchy. We are, as it were, a constitutional democracy. And in that regard, the Constitution is supreme. And while the court will not normally intervene in internal matters of Parliament, the court will become obliged to do so once there is a violation of law or of the Constitution. In other words, you are only free to do what you want to the extent that you are not offending law or the Constitution. And once there's an offense to the Constitution or to the law, then only the court can intervene in those matters, according to the judge, so that the court can and will intervene. And in this particular case, he went on to say, we not only have the power to intervene in terms of making declarations that you ought to do A, B, and C, or we advise, but we could be more invasive in terms of dictating. So, for example, the court can, if it wishes, say you must do this by particular time period, etc., etc. That is our understanding of the invasive involvement of a court. But other important findings was that the government had been propagandizing, and even the Prime Minister here regrettably had said, well, CARICOM can't do nothing much because this matter is sub judice. The judge confronted that argument in paragraph 146 of the judgment and dismissed it and said basically that there is no prejudice to the rights of the parties by the motion of no confidence being heard, tabled, and debated and voted upon. In fact, he went so far to say, if you were to do that, then this court matter becomes moot. It becomes a matter of academic exercise. This is an important finding because what it does now, it frees the Speaker and the executive of any impediment basically to hold the motion of no confidence. There were other, in my view, trivial arguments where they said, well, the motion is bad. The motion is just some people angry with the Prime Minister. And the court cited the precedent and said, but this is nonsense. Motivation is not an issue. It is irrelevant. The fact is there is a constitutional right granted to each and every member of Parliament to bring this motion, and the motion has to be heard, irrespective of the motivation. Because in the end of the day, the motivation will be settled by the Parliament itself, either voting for it to succeed or for it to fail. So take it to the Parliament, treat it for what it says on the face it is, a motion of no confidence. And he cited the case, a recent case in Guyana against Granger, I think it was, who had brought a similar motion to sort of marginalize Minister Rohi from participation in the Parliament. And he quoted the Chief Justice, which said, the Constitution does not preclude anyone from bringing a motion against one or all members of the government. In the end, it doesn't really matter how many. So long as they say they are aggrieved, you deal with it. And we saw a working example of that with Quick Sinclair in Barbados recently. One man, a motion of no confidence being brought against, and that was dealt with expeditiously. Mayor Motley served notice on Friday that she intended to bring a motion of no confidence. By Tuesday, the calendar of Parliament the next week, within less than a week, was cleared, and the motion put, debated. In that particular case, the motion failed. That gives you an idea of how motions are to be handled. In Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Prasad Bisesar has faced about 3. Mount Strat has faced about 2 under Chief Minister, now Premier Mead.
What does this say about the maturity of your politics in St. Kitts Nevis and of your practicing politicians and leaders?
I would say that it reflects a sense of dishonesty on the part of the leadership, a desire not to elucidate and to educate people about a significantly important matter, but rather to hide the truth and to make do that this motion of no confidence is a light, trivial matter of no consequence, when all throughout history it has been important. In Barbados, it was a motion of no confidence that brought Sandyford down. And indeed, interestingly, in his own rulings, the judge described the motion of no confidence as being necessary for democratic hygiene.
What would you like CARICOM, how would you like CARICOM to respond to this?
I believe that CARICOM has to wake up and take note that you are having a subversion of democracy in a member state.
But what should they do?
And therefore, what they should do, they should use their good offices to intervene with the political leadership with a view to getting the right thing done. Because the right thing is well known. It is either we are a society, and the Charter of Civil Society, to which CARICOM wants us to espouse, says that we have political rights, and the rights which they want us to develop are of a democratic nature. And the motion of no confidence is part of that democratic nature, where you have a chance in between elections to check the government, to change it if needs be, to bring a new prime minister if that is desirable, whether from the same side of the house or from an opposite side or an amalgamation. We want CARICOM to intervene, to say publicly, not that they will take a whip and whip him into action, but at some point, and especially in light of this judgment, the desk is now being cleared for CARICOM to say, and the point of the Charter and the point of the good governance agenda, what is happening in St. Kitts is not something that we support, and we would like to see that being righted as expeditiously as possible.
As we record this program, CARICOM should be meeting in a day or two, and by the time this program is aired, we hope that CARICOM would have acquiesced and responded to your request. We have one more segment to go. Time is running, tempus fugit, and we'll be right back to continue. Dr. Timothy Harris from St. Kitts Nevis is my guest. He is leader of 2 political parties, Team Unity and the People's Labour Party. Our final segment when Unrendered returns.